Hello! Today we are going to look at Vaxart and why this stock is going through the roof. I'm going to go over my 3 reasons why this stock had a ridiculous 142% move to the upside within the month of November and what I predict will happen in December leading up to 2021. Stick around, you do not want to be in the dark on this stock. Let's keep it simple. For those of you new to the channel, I am the Simple Trader and I try to keep it simple here. I am not a financial advisor. This channel is growing and that's thanks to all you subscribers out there. If you haven't already, please consider to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up as it really helps out the channel. Without further ado, here's the rundown. Part 1, update on my position. Part 2, price action and coming prediction. Part 3, 3 reasons why the stock surged 142%. And part 4, what to expect in the coming months ahead. On the 31st of October, I released an in-depth analysis on Vaxart stock and their game-changing pill form vaccine potential. So, if you need an in-depth briefing, please do check out that video and the link is in the description below. I will not duplicate any part of that video here, so if you do have questions, please drop me a comment down below. My position. On October 16th, I started my position to the tune of 535 shares at an average cost basis of $6.17, based on the closing price of December the 2nd, which was $7.30. It puts my position up 18% on paper. I mean, I invest in growth stocks that I believe has huge upside potential and limited risk. In Vaxart, I believe the future growth could be explosive. From the moment I got in, I saw the stock dropping like crazy and I was waiting to average down my position. I managed to add 400 more shares at $3.94 on the 10th of November after the massive drop that happened on the 9th. So, my overall cost basis now sits at $5.21, which means my position is roughly up 40% on paper to date. I'm not talking about my position here to flex on anyone, but if you can get anything out of this, I truly hope it's this, that you understand with all speculative growth stock plays, you need to be prepared for massive ups and massive downs. I mean, I was down huge at one stage, as you can see. I do believe in time in the markets rather than timing the markets, and so long as you have done your due diligence, the odds should be in your favor long term. But that does not mean you will win on every stock you pick. Just bear that in mind. Price action. Since October 16th, when I first took up a position in the stock, it dropped to the $5 mark and began a period of sideways action. Then on November the 9th, it plummeted to $3.50, meaning a total of 43% to the downside on my position. Since then though, it has gone up immensely and reached a high of $8.50 on December the 1st. This meant a huge reversal of 142% to the upside. If you did manage to get in on that dip, please drop me a comment below and let me know how you're doing. You deserve an award. I still believe the upside potential is immense. Considering back in July it hit a high of $17, I believe there is still ample room to grow, so long as we get some good news in the coming months. Based on my analysis, I see the $9 mark as being the resistance level and my prediction of where it will come the end of December. If the stock breaks this $9 resistance, then we could see a huge run up to the $10 to $11 range, where I expect it will consolidate for a period waiting for a big catalyst event to come, and this may be in the form of positive news on its phase 1 trial results. If the results come and are positive, then I expect the stock to explode back to the $15 range, and of course, depending on the results, it could go to retest the $17 high mark. I really believe there is a high chance that I could triple my money in the coming 6 months based on my position. Of course, I'm quite bullish on this stock now, and I really think we have seen the end of $4, but anything could happen with such a speculative stock. The risk-reward ratio for me sits at 1 to 6, as I do see the stock hitting around $50 within 3 years, as long as they can bring their game-changing, world-changing and life-saving products to market. That is a good risk-reward ratio for me. 3 simple reasons why the stock exploded 142%. Analyst upgrades. Vaxart was upgraded by H.C. Wainwright to $17. Let that sink in. And I hope I don't butcher the coming names, but check this. Brookline Capital Markets, Kamaruguru Raja gives a price target of $20, and also B. Riley Financial's Mayank Mantami also upgraded the stock to buy with a price target of, check this, $22.
Fuck, you can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
CNN analysts also forecast a high price of $20 and a low price of $16 in the next 12 months. I mean, the low price prediction represents a minimum 120% upside alone. So from these upgrades, it's simple. A lot of retail investors like you and me are jumping on this stock based on forecasts. And that's usually what happens, right? Institutional buying. Follow the smart money. We can see a continued uptrend in institutional buying. Among the big hitters, we see Morgan Stanley and Charles Schwab join in the action and increase their holdings by a huge 163% and 400% respectively. Another big player to note is BlackRock Inc., who hold a massive 4.2 million shares in the company, and they increased their holdings by 26% in this quarter alone. The COVID-19 situation worldwide continues to deteriorate. Although we had strong news from 3 of the vaccine makers, this has appeared not to deter the interest in Vaxart's oral solution, which clearly is showing more and more interest, as noted by the CEO Andre Florio in the recent Piper Sandler conference, where he stated that usual attendance at their key opinion leader panel call is only around 150 to 250 people, but in this year's hosting, the attendance was over 1,000.
Yasmin, as you know, on Thursday we had a key opinion leader event, and these events usually are attended by 150 to 250 people, and we had almost 1,000 people.
I have a feeling many of the world's poorer countries are realizing that the vaccines announced thus far carry high premiums and have a production limitation, not to mention, for example, the freezing requirements for the Pfizer vaccine. The attention is turning to an alternative solution, and therefore I believe the interest in Vaxart's pill form vaccine has gained some momentum. Ignition time! There were several key takeaways in the recent November Piper Sandler conference, which to me are more breadcrumbs that this stock is getting ready for an explosion. The first is the reiteration from Sean Tucker, who is the founder and chief scientific officer.
From the standpoint of our preclinical data to date, I think we know that our vaccines are very robust in terms of immune responses. I think the key thing, from the standpoint of that hamster study that we completed was that we showed that basically you could get, 100% protection against, severe effects from COVID. I mean, that's one of the advantages of the hamster model. I think the other thing, that I would like to bring out is that, one of the things that potentially could happen, with these vaccines that are reliant just on the S protein is that as they're put pressure on, essentially all these vaccines are out in the market, there could be escape mutants that will no longer, that the antibody responses to the S-driven may not be so effective. Our vaccine has more than S. We have a very conserved, part of the N protein as part of the effect or part of the approach. It's possible that then our vaccine would be able to address, the limitations of the vaccines if that happens, that, there's escape mutants that pop out.
He also goes on to say that they may well be the first company to truly bring out mucosal immunity.
There is a big advantage from basically delivering your vaccine to a mucosal surface, essentially a wet surface of the body, because when you inject the vaccine, what happens is you generally generate only a systemic antibody response. Whereas if you deliver something more naturally at the mucosal surface, you get the systemic response, but you also get something that you get a local immune response at the mucosal surface. And the big advantages of that is that if you can actually block, essentially create the first line defense, the antibodies at that local spot, you can actually block infection. And that makes a big difference from the standpoint of, essentially keeping virus from getting into the body in the first place. But two, once it's there, you can actually prevent shedding, and it has a huge impact from the standpoint of transmission. So I think those are all good reasons. And in comparison between, for where a head-to-head comparison has been done between a mucosal vaccine and an injected alternative, the mucosal vaccines do better from the standpoint of blocking shedding and transmission. You asked about, one of the studies that we did. Well, we did it with the same platform. We looked at how this works for influenza, and we saw the same thing, is that when we compared against the injected vaccine, we were able to generate a very broad response, and it seemed to have a big impact on the amount of shedding of influenza when we actually gave everybody influenza.
The CEO stated that since the other vaccine makers have been coming out with their phase 3 results, there has actually been far more interest globally in Vaxart.
And think about the fact that this was after Pfizer BioNTech published data that was better than expected, and after last Monday, Moderna published data that was better than expected. And through those 10 days, we've seen how, the stocks of all other COVID vaccine makers first went down, and then they kind of recovered as people started to digest what does that mean from a practical point of view. And I think the reason we had such a massive attendance was that people realized, wow, this is definitely good news, right? But it's the backstop. It's more like these are emergency tools. These are not the solutions that will end the pandemic. And to end the pandemic, you need something that's practical, something that people want to take, something that most people will take, something that can reach the furthest corners of the globe, not only in rich countries, but developing countries too. So we hope this gives you kind of where, we feel even better about what we are doing. And something else that Sean told me about 8 months ago, before we even got any of this data, is he said, look, we'll find out probably that either many or most approaches work or none of them work. So I think now we are finding out, particularly with the AstraZeneca Oxford data today, that most approaches seem to work, right? Which actually increases the likelihood that our approach also works, because we are going after the same antigens, and so we feel good. We feel like the risk for us also went down.
They stated that phase 1 is progressing well and positive data should be released and expected in January. This could be big.
We feel like we'll have all the data in January and we'll have some sort of way of disclosing it.
Finally, they confirmed that they will announce the studies that they intend to do on the norovirus and flu vaccine, also in January next year, as there is a huge increased demand for these vaccines due to COVID-19.
Something we announced last week, I believe, is that we restarted our norovirus program. I think we all recognize that that's our second largest value creation opportunity near term. And we'll announce shortly exactly the studies that we intend on doing there. And then the other huge opportunity globally is flu, influenza, and we have 2 programs there. And one of them is a universal flu with J&J, and the other one is a quadrivalent equivalent, which is ours. And we'll again make an announcement probably early next year as to how we continue to proceed with that. But we see that the demand for vaccination and in general and flu vaccination in particular has actually increased due to the pandemic. So we feel even better about the opportunity there.
Simply put, I can see December being a consolidating and slowly uptrending month for Vaxart, leading up to the blockbuster that could be January, that could literally ignite the stock. With all that said, overall my bullish thesis on Vaxart remains, and I will be doing a follow-up video shortly to see where we go from here. I would like to thank you for watching my update on Vaxart, and remember that I do have a position in this company, so please do take my analysis with a pinch of salt. Again, please do your own due diligence and speak to a professional before you look to buy any shares of any stock. Any investment comes with risk, and only risk what you can afford to lose. And remember, diversification is your friend. If you are interested in other huge growth stocks that I have in my Freedom portfolio, please check out my other videos. For more huge growth stock picks, analysis and updates, please stay tuned and consider subscribing to my channel so you get all the information first. I am the Simple Trader, and will simply see you next time.